I'm here to talk about gather, transform, send. So, friends, I put up 3 different logos. Do you guys recognize this one?
Yes.
I do.
What is this?
Amazon.
Amazon. What is the primary task of Amazon?
World
Take over the
domination.
world.
To take over the world. World domination.
Through logistics.
Through logistics. Yes. What else are they able to do besides take over the world?
They sell books.
They sell books. That's how they started, right?
They deliver things.
They deliver. They can get you what you need very quickly to your doorstep or now a conveniently located locker in your neighborhood. What about Pepsi? What is the primary task of Pepsi?
Yummy drinks for people to drink.
Yes, to compete against other cola companies.
To be the best.
To give you the
cola.
best experience.
quench your thirst.
To quench your thirst. This is the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Organization. What is their primary task?
To defeat breast cancer.
It is. They organize races, they get people around the cause of breast cancer to raise money, to raise awareness, and to do all sorts of things. Those are the primary tasks of these organizations. So, with that in mind, my friends, what is the primary task of the church?
I'm going to guess gather,
That'd be
transform, and send.
Right off
Because that's
the
the name of the
bat,
presentation.
right off the bat, the primary task of the church is to gather those called by God into Christ's body. Not all of your churches probably look like this, but the primary task of the church is to gather those called by God into Christ's body in your own unique way. In your own particular context, you have a unique way in which you are helping God gather people into your community. Right? So, this is all part of, as I stated before, this will be our reference over here, the gather, transform, send model. So first off, we are going to focus on the gather piece. There are ways in which we gather people, that we assist God in inviting, greeting, orienting, and incorporating people into our congregations. Now, inviting, Episcopalians tend to believe that inviting is just having Sunday services, right? We're going to have Sunday services, and that means you're invited, and you should know that. Except most people don't, especially if you're living in the Pacific Northwest or Berkeley, California. You have to actually pay attention to the ways in which you are inviting people into your church. What is your signage? Do people even know that you are a church? Is there a way in which that they are finding their way to you that is easy? Have you done any work in your congregation around invitation? Do you teach your people how to invite their neighbors? How to not be the scary Christian, but instead to be someone who has something that they are offering that is unique and special and worth someone that they love knowing about? How do you invite people? What about your electronic outreach? This is mostly now our websites, right? How do our websites invite folks into our communities? Advertising. Advertising doesn't have to be scary. In fact, the college is going to teach us how we can market ourselves as congregations in our contexts. Maybe some of your programs. Maybe you have something that you can advertise about what you are doing and invite people to that. And then, of course, our sacraments. Maybe you are a wedding destination. Maybe you are someplace that people want to baptize their kids. At my congregation, a quinceañera is a sacrament of our church, that people come to St. Michael's, San Miguel, to have a quinceañera. So once you have invited someone, they come. How are they greeted? Do you recognize them as a visitor with appropriate and interested welcome? What does that mean? If you have a young person who comes to your church, do you have like everybody swarm them and say, please, please, please stay? We need young people. We need you here. Don't go. That's not really appropriate. And maybe showing interest in where have you been? What are you looking for? That goes across all generations and age demographics. Also part of greeting is your worship norms. How does someone know what to do? Sometimes congregations have someone who says, this is Phil. He's going to sit with you and help you get through the service. Or here is our church bulletin. It has everything that you need. And when you see this number, that means you're going to go to your blue hymnal and we are going to sing from that book. What about your coffee hour? Is it accessible? Is it hospitable? Is it functional? That is another way in which we greet people. Does anyone have a coffee hour that's not functional? Does anyone have an experience of a coffee hour that just did not go well?
We used to have to walk a long ways to another building to go to the coffee hour, so people would just kind of branch off to their cars on the way.
So no one actually could get to the coffee hour. No one knew.
You had to know. Someone had to show you where to go.
Right. And then we move into orienting people into our context. And so is there a follow-up contact? If you have someone who's filled out a card, and I say this every Sunday, if you're new to us, we'd love to know who you are. Please fill out a welcome card and place it in the offering plate as it goes around. What if I don't get those cards? Or what if I don't follow up? Then this whole process gets short-circuited. So follow-up contact. Newcomers gathering in classes. Do you have sort of an Episcopal 101 or some opportunity for people to get to know more about the norms of your place? Do you have an orientation to the building? One of the things that we've done in our newcomer gathering is that a member of our newcomer committee, we go on a tour of the building and we each share a memory or a story about that particular place in our experience of St. Michael's. And so someone will, from the choir, always takes us down to the choir room and talks about their experience there. People go to different places all around our building as we tour around so people can get both a story and an orientation to the building. And then, of course, a connection to clergy and others. That is, to me, the most functional coffee hour is a time in which you are connecting a newcomer with their particular interest or their value or their giftedness to someone else who shares in that. So making those connections. And then as we gather, we're trying to incorporate people into our life together. And so looking for deeper involvement. Maybe you have a catechumenal process. Maybe there's an invitation for baptism or confirmed, received, or transfer their membership. And of course, we also can't be shy about the need for a financial pledge as we are incorporating. This is an invitation. These are all invitations and how we get people involved into our community. So that is how we are gathering. Again, we are assisting God in bringing people into the way that we uniquely do our work as Christ's body. So, once we have gathered, there are ways in which we are transformed. Now, there's a lovely model called Sources of Transformation that really talks about the outward and visible signs of how we are transformed through life, prayer, study. But there are many other ways in which transformation happens when we enter into a community, as we enter into church, that are also ways in which we are transformed by mind, heart, and action. So thinking about your place, what if somebody entered, I'm going to take this out as it seems to be poking out from the sides here. What would somebody notice about your worship space? How does that inform who you are as a congregation? What would they notice about your Sunday Eucharist? What is the climate? Are people anxious? Are people happy? Is it joyful? What about your formation classes? What are you offering as that sort of outward and visible sign? How are you treating the children in your community? Are they part of what's going on? Are they hidden in the basement? Are they told to be quiet? Do the families that visit get those awkward stares and feel like they need to leave? How are children and families part of what happens? Is there any conflict that you think is stuffed below the surface of your community, but is really kind of informing somebody's experience of your place. I get those people at St. Michael's all the time. I won't tell you what churches they're coming from, but they'll visit other places. They're like, and then they come, and they might, we might mess them up in some other way, but there are things that transform us in where we are. What information is shared? What information isn't shared? What's the leadership's presence? How many people do you have up around your altar? Are they all clergy? How's your lay leadership? Who's included in the leadership of your congregation? What's your relationship to the neighborhood? We are specifically in the Hollywood district of Portland, and we are right by the Mac station. And so that has a relationship to who we are and what happens in our place. So these are just some of the ways, again, above and below the surface, that we are transformed in our unique context. So in this transformation of our hearts, minds, and actions to live our baptismal identity and purpose. Transform. Okay. Then, it's too much paper. We are sent. It's one of the best parts. It's one of the best parts of what we do when we gather. Send us out. Send us out to do the work you have given us to do. Does that sound familiar? Where's that from? Something, yeah. Send us out.
Something like the post-communion prayer on page 365.
65. Yes.
Maybe there.
Somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there.
Send us out to do the work you've given us to do. What are these people doing? Do you know where your people go? Where are they being sent? What's their experience Sunday at 12 to the next Sunday at 11? Where are they going back to? And how does that inform what you're doing with transformation and gathering? Because people are going back out into the world, you've got to get them back. You've got to regather all the time. So knowing where they are sent is really important to how we gather and how we transform. Somebody at one of the college weeks, I remember somebody gave the example of bring your priest to work day. Have any of you guys done that? Have any of you gone to the places where your people work? Because we do this, right? We go to people's homes a lot. We visit with people in their family life. We know a lot about what people are being sent out to into their families. We know when people are going through transitions, when people are going through divorces, when people have lost their jobs, when people are taking care of someone who's ill in their family. That's where we're sending people back out to. But there's another part of people's lives, right, Ivor? Work life, right there. Work life. Work life is where are they going? What are they doing? What's their job? I had a huge moment where I realized part of who we are as a congregation is that we are a Green Faith certified church. So we went through this 2-year process to become a Green Faith certified church. And so we were harping on people about all sorts of environmental practices. You know where one of our members works? He works for plastics. He sells plastic. That is his livelihood. And so when he was with us in this process, he felt awful because nobody knew that about him. But approaching him in the sense of we actually get to counter and erase some of that carbon footprint by what your community and church is doing. But if we don't recognize that, then somebody's just going to feel ostracized and bad. What else are your people doing? We have a lot of social workers. In fact, one of my social workers feels like she should be on staff salary because I call her so much, because I should be a social worker as well in much of what we do. But knowing who those people are and what they need and how they also come back to our community. So where are your people going? What's their work life? Our society and civic life, the ways in which we're going out into the world to be voters, the way that we are informed of what is happening in our neighborhood, in our community, in our city, what's happening with our schools when teachers go on strike. These are the things that we're sending people out into that world where they are to be God's hands and heart and feet So how are we doing that here to send them out to do that work? We have to know what that work is. Church life. Sometimes we're sending people right back into our doors, right? Who are Eucharistic visitors, Eucharistic ministers, lectors, folks who are living out their life are part of what we're doing in church as well. So how are we sending people? Where are they going to? And how does that change how we treat them? What we provide for them when they're in our place? It's an important piece of knowing our members, our people, our community. So, gather, transformation, send. The context that we are in. So one just little way to use this, you can break down any of these pieces into how would we use send in an example? How do we we can go through some of the folks that we know in our community, and do we know what their family life is, their work life? And just start thinking about that in our own, as a staff, when we're checking in about newcomers, getting to know one another. This is a great way to look at that. In the transformation model, again, it's that looking at what are all the places that we're doing that people are experiencing that are going to transform them over time. It is not something that happens once. It is something that happens continuously over and over and over again. And then with gather, we've used this a lot. And I know that we do this a lot during the week in college, at the college, is that we evaluate ourselves. We ask, how does your place invite, greet, orient, and incorporate? So you can do this, you can have 4 of these sheets up and ask your vestry, do a forum, figure out, again, will we invite, if I was looking at invite, I'd say we do pretty good. We do pretty well. Our website's current, our signage is up, our people often come because their neighbors invited them. Our greeters, we have great ushers, we have a vestry greeter at both doors before and after the service, things like that. Orient, our bulletin is our number one way of orienting people. After our 11 o'clock service, we do not have a functional coffee hour. We've decided that our coffee hour is between the 9 and the 11 service. That is the coffee hour. It's like 10:10 to 11. Well, some people don't know that. Some people come to the 11 and then they go up and there's an empty parasol with some cups that have half full coffee in them. Right? So how are we orienting? And then incorporate. For us, this is our catechumenate process and the journey that people go through. So where are you on this, and how do you continue to strengthen those different areas that need a little bolstering up? How we use this model? This one just kills it. This one gets all the things. It is an assessment. It's great for teaching. You can do all sorts of data collection. You can develop the common language. You can talk to your leaders and develop a strategy. And you can create direction, vision, and goals. Boom! Is there anything that we have missed in this conversation? Please pipe in. This is Christopher Craun reporting in for Gather, Transform, Send.